Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Always love getting together with her because we get clarity, we get understanding of these things that we all deal with. One of those being stress and anxiety. And we talked about that last week. We're going to pick up from where we left off, even some clarifications, what could be the differences between them. She is an amazing psychotherapist, works with people of all ages, navigating this and so much more. And it's great to have her back here. Susie Engel is on the program. How are you today?
I'm fine, Steve. How are you?
Really good, really good.
Yeah, good.
So, anxiety and stress, pick up point from where we left off. We were explaining the differences and how they are connected, but then maybe not so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we're picking up a bit of where we left off from last time, because as much as a stress response and anxiety, the way any person might describe their experience with anxiety might be similar. We said in some respects it is the same. In many respects, it is not exactly the same. So I wanted to follow up on that just to make sure people in our audience are beginning to think about themselves and the difference between describing their experiences as stress response rather than anxiety. Because at some point, anxiety is a label and it's overused.
Hmm.
And if we use labels, we're not really descriptive, we're not vivifying what is our experience about this, and we're not also, describing our individual experience. And part of the distinction is anxiety is often fueled by our history, by our thought process, by our rationale, or the lens that we view from which we view the world. Then stress response is like an autonomic, like a biological, neurological, physiological response.
This is making it much more clearer now. Yeah. Wow. So anxiety is, I'm going to be careful the way I say this, but you're repeating patterns of how you reacted to things in the past. Whereby stress, it's more physiological.
Yeah, and anxiety may provoke the stress response, which is a similarity we spoke about last podcast. And I don't know, how clear it is. And at the same time, um, uh, if we think about it, I think you had brought up an experience. I mean, I just kind of like was flipping through my file cabinet up there, and I think you had brought up an experience. I called it being mugged, but I don't remember what you said. You were
Yes, totally gotcha. Totally gotcha.
done, right?
And I don't know the context, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
I was on a subway heading into New York City. This was in my 20s, going to go see my friend, came from work, had a briefcase, was surrounded by a bunch of men,
yeah.
and I wasn't officially mugged, but they were, hey, what's in the briefcase? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. It was a moment where elevated anxiety.
Autonomic,
It's
autonomic.
just the environment was
Not
like, all
even
right,
the anxiety. That is stress response.
that's a stress response.
Yep.
Okay. Um, that was one situation. There was another situation where I was mugged. And it was an all out brawl. It was in my 20s. My other two friends were involved, injuries and everything. Um, but I said after that event,
Yeah.
anytime I'm in what could be a challenging situation, maybe threatening, whatever, even just walking down a city street, it's not like I'm a freak about it, but my radar's up, my antenna
Yeah.
bing, is up, and I'm aware of my surroundings because I'm not going to let that ever happen again. But I don't know if I don't know if that's anxiety. What would you call
It
that?
is
Just
It is. So that's
Oh,
more of an anxiety response.
months. Okay.
And so because you were, just thinking about the timeline of these two experiences, it's not like you had chronic, you know, uh,
Mm-mm.
traumas or stress or anything
Nope.
in life.
Nope.
But if you think about these two experiences, they began to inform you. And I remember last time, and I'm just using you as a great example for the audience
Sure.
to start reflecting on how they view their experiences. Because last time you said, oh, I think you were describing the second one, you turned your back
Yes. And
to,
that's,
as
I
if
got
it's
sucker
your,
punched. That's what
yeah.
it was. Went dropped right down. Then it was, then it turned into a brouhaha, if you will. And these were the people that instigated it were wrestling champions that I
Oh,
recognized from high school. So you can talk about the size that we were dealing with here. It was a
yeah.
no-win situation,
Yeah.
is what it was. However, I said past that event that I won't let that happen again. And wherever I am, I'm not obsessed with anything, but it's just I should have been, as I am now, aware of surroundings. If it's somebody looks a little questionable, it's on, I see it, it's the side of my eye, just looking around, whatever. Um, you're just aware. That's all.
So that brings us to the distinction of the first experience, which is autonomic stress response.
For
Just
sure.
like if we're startled, we we shrug and jump and
Yep.
we carry the stress in it. So many people feel tense in their shoulder areas and shoulder blades.
Yep.
That's just autonomic. It's just natural, it's physiological, it's bio, it's neuro, it's all these interdisciplinary findings that happen to us. The second one started in you and it could have exacerbated. So I'm not calling you unhealthy and I'm not diagnosing you. That is not my issue. And most things, like, the audience needs to know that when people come in for therapy, it is not gloom and doom pathology. Pathology like what's wrong with you, you're sick. And if somebody has that approach, it's not a good feeling and it's not going to be productive and it'll probably turn people off from uh, personal development.
Hmm.
But if somebody comes in and says, this is what I'm experiencing, no expert therapist is going to say, well, that's strange and that's bizarre, and like make you shamed about it. But I will say that your experience and even the way you verbalize it instilled in you a a vigilance, of I am not going to let this happen before. There's a little bit of self-blame, like, and again, I'm picking this apart for the audience sake more than for your
Hmm.
sake.
Yep.
Because I'm not picking on you, but it's a great example because you're saying, oh, I turned my back, and the minute I turn my back, I get sucker punched. So for
But
now,
you're
I'm
right.
I'm like, yeah, how do you know you're going to be sucker punched?
Well, it was in a fast food restaurant. It was late at night. We were there. We walked out, my friends and I.
Yeah,
And right from the beginning, they had these, perps, if you will, said things in there like, hey, what's wrong? You can't wait for the line. No, we're going someplace else. It's crowded.
yeah,
Right away, I knew, could have a problem here. I did. And
yeah,
then, went to the parking lot. They followed out, and I thought that was it. They were just like, yeah, just 20-year-olds yelling at each other, silly stuff. Go to my car. I should have realized that there was something brewing and turned my
yeah.
head to open my door. And then that's where it all started. So I should have been aware then. I am now.
But listen, remember 2 podcasts ago, so that would be 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
I think it was April Fool's Day. Not really sure. But remember, we were talking about this element of trusting our gut and trusting our sensibility and
Yes.
trusting ourselves, and how you go through life. If it's fast paced, we're not paying attention. It's either like we've learned to extinguish trusting our gut, or we're so um, mindless in how we're going through things,
Yep.
we pay the price. And that's why therapy is also great, because it makes us mindful. It brings the unconscious to the conscious, or the non-conscious to the conscious, however people want to talk about this. I say unconscious, and then we become aware. But the other thing is, remember how that gut instinct that we're born with
Mm-hmm.
gets extinguished. That could happen in childhood innocently, not because we have bad parents, but just because parents don't realize if you have a great idea that fires you up that you want to try when you're 4 years old, and your parents don't have time for that, or don't have time to like deal with it, that might just chisel away a little bit of your gut instinct. Like, I have a feeling like this would be the best strategy for all of us, or for me, Miss 4-year-old, and then it's like, we don't have time for that. Then it's like, well, maybe I don't have time for my gut instinct in general. And
It's
these
true.
things begin to generalize. So this is why I was really excited to like revisit last time, and then, of course, it's bringing us back to the time before, and the continuity of some of these discussions that we have.
I'm glad you brought up the gut feeling, the intuition, and learning to trust it. And I often wonder why I don't. I do more now, but not always.
Yeah.
And part of it is because I don't want to. It says something and I want something else. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. This is what I think I want. And it could be the most minimal thing. It's, gut is telling you, don't go to that party. It's not going to be good. You don't want to waste your time there. No, I want to go. Fear of missing out. I want to see what it's like. And then you go and it's like, oh, I should have stayed home. This is like dreadful. Why am I here? Oh, my
Well,
gut said, don't go.
yeah,
But then there's the other times where you get that intuition, just to your point just now, in that there's a reason you ignore it, and it could even go back to your childhood. I never made that connection.
I know that was quite the interesting epiphany. Um, the the I think the takeaway from this conversation is, very rarely when we're talking about our personal issues, is it pathological. It's usually very logical. It's usually, even if somebody came into the office and said, I pulled my hair out of my head, or I'm alcoholic, or whatever this is, I would say, well, what's going on and what's happening? And the more the client describes it, it's like, more times than not, those are my words to my client. Like, I get it. Like, it's logical. But what have other people been saying to you? Oh, you should be ashamed. What's wrong with you? You've got a problem. And, so in a sense, we do have a problem because our defenses are on autopilot, which is also an amazing part of our brain system. Like, we have all these structures in our brains that function so incredibly.
It's
I think
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like we see, like, the blast off the women who went to out like
Right.
the
Katy
precipice
Perry and company, right? Yeah.
to the precipice of outer space. Like, go in here. Like, we haven't even we only know a little bit of our capacity, but our brain structures do phenomenal things to cope. And if that means a client has developed an addiction, or a hyper vigilance, like, what if you're
I
vigilant?
don't think I'm hyper vigilant. I think
No,
I'm just
no, I don't think.
aware.
Yeah, which is
Aware.
great.
But I
But
could be. But
what
you know
if
what?
it
It could go.
escalated?
Exactly right. It could have escalated in me to the point where it's like, I'm never getting on a subway. I'm never going to New York City. I'm not going to do
But
this.
that is a coping mechanism
For
for
sure.
many people, and it's maladaptive until they come to therapy and figure out how to get adaptive. And then they're developing a new structure in their brain, which is called a new neural network, not stemming from the childhood, but stemming from today onward, because we've become adaptive about it. So, yeah, no, I don't think you're hypervigilant. But
No, I'd admit if I was, believe me.
but this is what people do, and then it begins to get agoraphobic. And we were
Yeah.
talking a little bit about COVID last week. And,
Mhm.
a lot of people have become, I like staying in my cocoon. I understand that. I understand that.
Well, that's also a
What
protection
have you
mode.
lost? Exactly. And
Mm.
it's a coping mechanism, but I would say to the extreme of probably it's logical, but on the other hand, what can we do to be curious about it?
So you talk about the cocoon situation. Energy. I'll share this. Over the weekend, did a lot of stuff. Did a lot of things, people, whatever. Yesterday, I found myself depleted, but it wasn't, I don't believe it was, I am tired from doing a lot over the weekend. I think I just gave energy to so many people in different ways and on that I never took a moment to just do nothing. Last night, after doing laundry and whatever, at like 8:30, I'm in bed, just like chilling there. TV's on. TV is down. I don't even put it on. And I'm just like, I need a moment. And I really think it just gave too much energy. I needed a moment.
Beautiful. Yeah. But I love what you're expressing because people are not taught to give themselves restorative time,
Yeah.
replenishing time. It's always like, and maybe it's a capitalist society. I mean, I really don't know. Maybe it's our own family cultures, whatever is contributing to it. There's a lot of guilt about just
It's true.
restoring ourselves and taking a break. And when we reach a point in our development to say, no, this is self care, this is good for me.
Yep.
This restores me. This fills me up again. And we get filled up in many ways, but this is one way. Then it's very beautiful, you know?
It was so beautiful out yesterday. It was crushing to me that I get home and I'm like,
I'm so
I got
tired.
nothing left. I want to go outside. I want to vacuum my car. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to walk and blah, blah, blah. Like I can't. I'm like, I need to power it down. But sometimes you need to.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. And it's a good thing.
yeah, well, I
That's
mean,
different. That's different than procrastination. That's different than cocooning. That's different than cocooning the way I'm saying, like that leads to agoraphobia. That's different than, everything is a spectrum. That's why, like, your vigilance is not off the rails, right? You're just aware.
haven't heard that in a while. Off the rails. I think of like Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train.
I
Um,
really don't know. I remember saying dude to somebody like 20 years ago and they were hysterical, but now everybody uses it.
right. I love what you said about the systems within us. There's so many different ones going on. Like it's a massive computer. We've got this system over here. We've got this one over here. This one's taking care of that. This one's taking care of that. This one's running a program in the background. It's like really amazing when you think about what we got going on in our minds.
I know, it's so interesting.
Right?
One of my mentors says, I don't know if these are her exact words, but she says, it's our brain, it's our whole system doing phenomenal acrobatics. And I just like, oh, take that in. Take that in. And,
Hmm.
it is true. Our whole system and these structures in our brain, especially the defenses that we're talking about that kind of just function in exactly the same way when they sense exactly the same, even though nothing is exactly the same from our history to
It's a
today.
really great point.
but they're functioning as if it's the same as when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
first time I felt abandonment, you know,
And how
whatever it is.
you're right, your mind can interpret a situation in real time and tie it back to an older situation, but know what the situation is, whether it's um, worried that you're going to get jumped, whether it's abandonment, whether it's
Yeah.
this. It can go back and say, yeah, this one seems similar, so I'm going to connect the two of these together for good or for bad.
Oh my gosh. And I was in session with a client some time ago, and I, I, he was describing his family members. One was like, whenever there's a problem, he thinks the teenager doesn't have a good diet. Whenever there's a problem with the middle child, it's like anxiousness, what's going on, that the kid isn't eating at school, all these situations. And then we're having session, and he's remembering some time in his experience that was overly stressful, like beyond like triggered a stress response around the dinner table. And I'm not going to open my mouth, but I couldn't wait for this guy to make the connection. Like, oh, wow. And so the connection didn't happen, but it
But
happened like several sessions later in another way. But it was brewing, it was percolating.
you were just waiting. And you knew it's tied to something from his past. And I'm going to just throw it out there. Probably something connected to eating or at the kitchen table when he
It
was a
was,
kid.
yeah,
Hmm.
it was right around the dinner table. He went right there, then didn't bring it back to today's time about his own family. But then, in time, the brain continued to process,
Hmm.
and he came back with some of these connections. And it's really exciting. It's very stimulating. The work is never rote.
You just brought back it's something in my mind. It's interesting how you might have a memory from your childhood that's not the best one, not horrific or anything, but just like, yeah,
Yeah,
remember the time my parents fought, or this, or that, or this, and how that could be tied into something that challenges you now, but you
yeah.
might not make the connection. Like we talk about the reverse. This is what's challenging me now. Let me think back to the time that it could be connected to. I'm going the other way. I'm thinking about the image of something in your childhood and what that could be doing now. I think it probably is even harder to do it that way. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been trained, and I think the um research that I base my work on, and I'm EMDR trained, is to really listen for the recent events and the recent presentations and the recent or current adaptations or
Mm,
patterns. And then, we're just taught to say, how might you have been informed? How were you informed of this? And some people are like,
mm.
what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. What do you get when I say that? Or, how did you learn this? Or who informed you of this? Who informed us that if I dress casually, I'm not professional or an expert? Who informed us of that? Oh, it was my grandmother, who was incredibly insecure or not, who thought that you have to get external approval or you are not worthy.
Or
And
you'll
that,
be judged.
yes. And wow, that is quite the information network.
Hmm. I love the way you present that. Who informed you of this? It's true though. Like and in other words, where are you getting this from?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on. Oh,
And a lot of young people, like teenagers or 20s and 30-year-olds, social media. because there was all the cyberbullying like 15 years ago. I mean, I don't know what goes on now because I'm not really a victim of bullying personally. So I just get the information from all my clients. And I keep updated because I work with young people. So I know like Urban Dictionary,
Oh, sure.
I know all the comments and
I got,
everything.
I got a teenager, so actually two. One's away, but yeah.
That's beautiful.
And,
Yeah.
and you know what? It just made a click in my mind that scuffle that I had
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s, I was bullied as a kid. So I'll bet there are connections between that and that situation because in a way that was sort of kind of bullying, even though it
Oh,
got
definitely.
physical,
Yeah, they
right?
were trash talking. They were saying like, "What's wrong with you?
Right.
You can't wait."
Yeah.
know, and you even answered.
Right. And we did.
Yeah, the line's really long. We're gonna go someplace else. Instead,
Side note, after it was over, it wound up in court, by the way.
phew,
I
that's
pressed charges and whatever. I just wanted to get my money back, for my busted nose and my deductible in my
good for
car.
you.
Yeah. It didn't turn out exactly the way we wanted to, but it's funny when you sit with yourself and you think of your timeline and what happened in your life along the way, and then maybe make that connection to the way you process now, the way you think, the way you act now. It's kind of profound.
Beautiful, beautiful. And when I take notes, I literally make a timeline. Funny you should mention it.
When you take notes with a client,
Mhm. The
mm,
first few, like, I don't know whether it's 3 sessions, 6 sessions, 12 sessions when I'm gathering information, because it's important for the client to get context of that person's own history as well. So a lot of times we'll be talking about the current situations, and then I'll say, "Oh, what does this remind you?" Or "How were you informed of this?" And then they'll like leapfrog back. And
wow.
I'll always say, "What did you start thinking about yourself?" "Oh, that was the day my self-esteem plummeted." And somebody might be talking about a 7-year-old experience. I'm not saying a 7-year-old experience. I'm saying an experience that happened when they're 7 years,
Right.
when
Yeah.
the person's 7, you know, and then the client saying, "Oh, huh." So the client is getting their own context of their own life
Yep.
in a different way.
I
Because
got
it
you.
doesn't matter what I get. It matters
Right.
what the client gets. Yeah.
Because when you get it, you got it. And you realize I had one the other day, not even worth going into, but it was it was connected to my father and it popped in my mind. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And it was somewhat sad. However, I thank him for what he did because it pushed me in a certain direction that turned out to be great.
Yes.
From him not doing what I wanted, asked him to do. But I never made that connection until recently. And
That's amazing because you're processing.
I'm processing.
Amazing.
You
We all are.
you're amazing because you give us the the freedom to process and know that this is what's going on within our minds. Like fascinating. It's amazing. Uh, I never thought that we would fill a half hour talking about anxiety and stress because we did already, but we just riffed on it, and I'm sure a lot of epiphanies for a lot of people when you put it all together.
Yeah, well, I think we
Um,
made some clarifications that needed to after last podcast. I feel very good about today.
same, same. How do we find you? Best way, your website?
So my website is my full name. Try not to misspell my last name. It's Susan Engel. So it's SUSANENGEL hyphen LCSW .com. I almost gave a website. It's not a website. It's a .com.
Well, that's where you are. Thank you for today. Appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of things to think about, but all good. As we try to figure out
Yes.
why we do what we do.
It's excellent thinking.
We'll catch up next time. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.